sites to walk in.
자,
Thank you very
여러분들
much. Good afternoon.
안녕하십니까. 바이든
In
라이브가
February,
갑자기 이렇게 시간 맞춰 시작하는 게 굉장히
came out here
의외네요.
National Institute of
바이든이
Health
라이브를
at
시작했고요.
NIH,
어떤 이야기를 하는지
and
알아보도록
to our
합시다.
Vaccine Research Center to thank all of you and the world-class doctors, scientists, researchers for the incredible work you've done during the pandemic and developing vaccines, saving lives, giving us hope. Also continuing to give me advice on developments as they occur. I've seen more of Dr. Fauci than I have my wife. We kid each other, but they look, who's president? Fauci. But all kidding aside, I sincerely mean it. Today, I'm back to announce our action plan to battle COVID-19 this winter. Not that any of us are surprised any of you, because it's the combined advice from all of you that we developed this plan. And it doesn't include shutdowns or lockdowns, but widespread vaccinations and boosters and testing and a lot more. There are 5 key actions that I want to see us take this winter. First is expanding the nationwide booster campaign with more outreach, more appointments, more hours, more times and sites to walk in, providing boosters shots for up to 110 million Americans who are eligible for boosters. And I want to know parenthetically, I was talking to one of my folks who does polling and national strategy. And he said there's some evidence in one poll, I won't mention it because I'm not positive of the number, I was told this as I was leaving the White House, that there is an expectation that 30% of the non-vaxxers said under no circumstances would I get a vaccination, because of the new variant, are now saying I'm going to get a vaccination. So we hope that's true. I hope that's true. But the second point is that launching new family vaccination clinics to make it easier for children, parents, and whole families to get vaccinated in one place. And new policies to keep our children in school instead of quarantining them at home. I'll talk about the detail of each of these in a moment. The third piece of this is making free at-home tests more available than ever before, and having them covered by your private insurance plans, available in thousands of locations and available at community health centers and other sites for the uninsured who don't have insurance. 4, increasing our surge response team that our doctors, our nurses, I know people in this audience know incredibly well about what a surge team is, but medical staff into communities with rising cases and overburdened hospitals and short on personnel. And by the way, they make a gigantic difference. The governors, Republican governors as well as Democratic governors, contact me when I go into their states, talk about thank you for these surge teams, because it really makes a difference. In some communities are hit so much harder than others. They just, they just can't make it without. And what we're going to do, I'll speak to this in more detail in a second. The 5th thing we're doing, we're going to accelerate efforts to vaccinate the rest of the world and strengthen the international travel rules for people coming to the United States. My plan I'm announcing today pulls no punches in the fight against COVID-19, and it's a plan that I think should unite us. I know COVID-19 has been very divisive in this country. It's become a political issue, which is a sad, sad commentary. It shouldn't be, but it has been. Now, as we move into the winter and face the challenges of this new variant, this is a moment we can put the divisiveness behind us, I hope. This is a moment we can do what we haven't been able to do enough of through this whole pandemic. Get the nation to come together, unite the nation in a common purpose, to fight this virus, to protect one another, to protect our economic recovery, and to think of it in terms of literally a patriotic responsibility rather than somehow you're denying people their basic rights. The plan I'm announcing today is the plan our scientists and COVID teams have recommended. And while my existing federal vaccination requirements are being reviewed by the courts, this plan does not expand or add to those mandates. A plan that all Americans hopefully can rally around, and it should get bipartisan support, in my humble opinion. And it should unite us, not continue to separate us. Parenthetically, you all know that there are literally, as it relates to whether or not we're going to pay the federal debt, whether we're going to, in fact, have a continued resolution, et cetera. Some of my friends on the other team are arguing that if I don't commit that there'll never be any more mandates, they're going to let us default. In the neighborhood I come from in Claremont, they'd look at me and say, go figure, go figure. But before I explain each new action in more detail, I want to, and I'm not going to embarrass you, Doc, but I want to thank Francis Collins. You know, you've done an incredible job, Doc, here at NIH, one of the most important scientists of our time, in my view. No, I'm not being solicitous. I think I'm not exaggerating a bit. After I was elected president, Dr. Collins was one of the first calls. I think you're the second call I made to ask you if you'd stay on. The second call I made. It's because when I was vice president, I got to know Dr. Collins really well when I was given the opportunity to manage the Cancer Moonshot Initiative. And Dr. Collins is an incredible resource for our nation. And I'm grateful, and I mean this sincerely, I'm grateful for everything he's done for this pandemic and advancing all kinds of medical breakthroughs, including mapping the human genome. He recently announced he's going to step down as director of the NIH this month after a truly consequential tenure. But the good news really is Dr. Collins is going to return to the lab, the National Human Genome Research Institute. And we look forward to his unmatched ability to unlock possibilities that are within our reach. And Doc, the bad news for you is you ain't getting rid of me, man. I'm going to keep calling you all the time because there's a lot of other things we can do. You can do and help me to get done. You just tell me, point me in the direction, and I'll follow. I just received a briefing from Dr. Collins and Fauci and Dr. Lawrence Tyback, as well as Dr. Julie Ledgerwood, and I appreciate it very much. My only regret was it was a short meeting, because I was to come and speak. I think we would all benefit more if we had made my speech short and spent more time with these docs. But you know, as they study the Omicron variant, just that we have just 2 cases reported here in the United States. But as I explained on Monday, this new variant is cause for concern, but not panic. We knew there'd be cases of this of Omicron here in the United States, and it's here. But we have the best tools, the best vaccines in the world, and the best medicine, and the best scientists in the world. We're going to fight this variant with science and speed, not chaos and confusion. Just like we beat back COVID-19 in the spring, a more powerful variant, Delta variant, in the summer and fall. As a result, we entered this winter from a position of strength compared to where America was last winter. Last Christmas, fewer than 1% of American adults were fully vaccinated. This Christmas, that number will be 72%, including more than 86% of seniors, the most vulnerable population. Last Christmas, our children were at risk without a COVID-19 vaccine. This Christmas, we have safe, effective vaccines for children aged 5 and older, with 20 million children and counting now vaccinated. Last year, a majority of our schools were closed at Christmas time in that area. Now, over 99% of our schools are open. But I pledge to always be straight and give it just straight from the shoulder as President of the United States and tell the American people exactly where we are. So here it is. Experts say the COVID-19 cases will continue to rise in the weeks ahead in this winter. So we need to be ready. You can read the whole plan we're talking about here at whitehouse.gov. Go to whitehouse.gov and it's all laid out in detail. For now, here are the 5 key points I want to expand on slightly. We're expanding our national booster campaign to provide booster shots to all eligible adults. Our docs and the scientists believe that people who get a booster shot are more protected than ever from COVID-19. I was just told, which is a question I got to ask, I've been meaning to ask for a long time, whether or not just it increases the resistance to the variant that is being dealt with, but it also is it is stronger. It not only just raises the total, but it's a stronger. It makes things more powerful in terms of resisting. And the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, and our top public officials recommend all adults get a booster shot when it's time. But here's the deal. More than about 100 million are eligible for boosters, but haven't gotten the booster shot yet. Folks, if you're over the age of 18 and you got vaccinated before June the 2nd, 6 months has gone by. Go get your booster now. Go get it now. Booster shots continue to be free. We've already made available 80,000 locations, coast to coast in the United States of America, 80,000 locations to get the booster. And if you want to know exactly where to go, text your zip code to 438829 to find where you can get your booster shot now. And starting today, we're making it easier than ever to get a booster shot. I'm calling on pharmacies, and they've been cooperative, big and small, to offer more appointments, more walk-in hours, including on weeknights and weekends, so you can get vaccinated at a time that works best for you and your family. Pharmacies will send millions of texts and emails to remind their customers to return for the booster shots, because you know who got the booster shot at CVC. They've agreed they're going to send text to that particular person when their time is up, when they've met if it's Pfizer or Moderna, 6 months. If it's J&J, 2 months. And to reach our seniors, we're also collaborating with the American Association of Retired Persons, AARP, who will be reaching out to their 38 million members. They're going to make an aggressive effort. They're going to be hosting virtual town halls to answer questions and even arrange rides for seniors to get their booster shots. And so that will all be coming. My administration also contacted the 64 million people on Medicare to remind them to get their booster shots. We have the ability to do that from the federal level. And just like I did to make it easier for folks to get their first and second shots, I'm providing paid off time for any federal employee who goes to get their booster. If the only time they can get the booster where they are, if it's at such and such a day in the middle of the day, they can go. All they have to do is demonstrate that's where they went, or they took their son, daughter, husband, wife, mom, dad.
현재 백신 맞으라고
They don't
계속
get doctor
공cáo 중이시.
pay. And I'm asking other employers in the private sector to do the same thing. Now, I want you to have to choose between a paycheck and getting an additional protection for a booster shot. Now, I want to reiterate, Dr. Fauci and Dr. Collins believe if you're worried about Omicron variant, the best thing to do is get fully vaccinated and then get your booster shot when you're eligible. Excuse me. We don't yet believe, that additional measures will be needed. But so that we're prepared if needed, my team is already working with officials at Pfizer, Moderna, Johnson & Johnson to develop contingency plans for other vaccines or boosters. And I'll also direct the FDA and the CDC to use the fastest process available without cutting corners for safety to get such vaccines reviewed and approved if they're needed. Second, we're expanding our efforts to vaccinate children ages 5 and up. For any parent worried about Omicron variant or the Delta variant, get your child vaccinated at one of the 35,000 locations in the country, including doctors' offices, pharmacies, children's hospitals, and 9,000 pop-up clinics at schools. If you're wondering where to go, again, visit vaccines.com. And today I'm announcing that we're going to launch hundreds of new family vaccination clinics across the country. These sites are going to offer vaccinations for the whole family, one stop. Children can get vaccinated, parents can get vaccinated and get their first or second shots, or their booster shots. Family vaccination clinics will be held in community health centers and other trusted locations. Some will be mobile to reach further into hard-to-reach communities. If it's booster shots for adults, vaccinations for kids, all the same place at the same time. Now, when we first announced, I said the logistical problem, it wasn't just we didn't have enough vaccines when we got into office, but once we got the vaccine, the logistical effort to get all communities and all areas vaccinated was a gigantic logistical undertaking that would make any military proud of being able to do it. But because of the incredible talent, including our military, we got that done. And we're going to do the same thing now as we continue to expand. We know parents of children under the age of 5 are wondering when the vaccine will be available for the little ones. That's the question I most get often asked now at functions. We had a function celebrating Hanukkah and the Christmas and various things at the White House. The parents coming up to me are saying, I have a 3-year-old. Is there going to be a time am I going to be okay? Is she going to be okay? Or he going to be okay? And let me say this, I strongly support the independent scientific review of vaccine usage for children under 5. We can't take shortcuts with that scientific work, but I'll do everything in my power to support the FDA to do this safely and quickly as possible when we get to around that point. Vaccinating our children is also critical to keeping our schools open. But while over 99% of our schools are open now, we need to make sure that we keep that throughout the winter. This winter, the CDC is now reviewing pioneering approaches like we call test to stay policies, which could allow students to stay in the classroom and be tested frequently when a positive case in that classroom popped up that wasn't them. Up to now, you go home and you quarantine. But rather than being sent home in quarantine, they'd be able to stay because the test would be available and regularly. The CDC will be releasing the latest science and other findings in the coming weeks so that other schools can learn from the impediment, if there's any impediments in this practice, they can learn to implement exactly what the best way to do this is. This is a process. We want our children in school, and we're going to take new steps to make sure they stays that way. But again, the best step is to vaccinate your children. Get them vaccinated. The third, this winter we're going to make free at-home tests more available to Americans than ever before. To better detect and control the Delta variant, I made testing more available, affordable, and convenient. I used the Defense Production Act to increase production of rapid tests, including at-home tests. When I came into office, none of these tests were on the market. Thanks to our actions and the work of all of you, we now have at least 8 at-home testing options, and prices for those tests are coming down. But it still isn't good enough in my view. That's why I'm announcing that health insurers must cover the cost of at-home testing, so that if you're one of the 150 million Americans with private health insurance, next month your plan will cover at-home tests. Private insurers already cover the expensive PCR test and that you get in the doctor's office. And now they will cover at-home tests as well. Now, for those not covered by private insurance, we're going to make available free tests at thousands of convenient locations for folks to pick them up and take a test kit home. The bottom line, this winter, you'll be able to test for free in the comfort of your home and have some peace of mind. This is on top of the 20,000 sites already around the country, like pharmacies, where you can go in and get tested for free. We have to keep this going. Fourth, we're going to continue to help communities that experience rising cases this winter and improve the care for those who get COVID-19. Since this summer, we've worked with Republican and Democratic governors, as many Republican governors as Democratic governors, to deploy what we call surge response teams. These teams work. They provide needed staff for staff overruns, badly needed staff, where overrun hospitals are handling more patients than they can handle, for their emergency rooms and intensive care units who don't have the personnel available. They help provide life-saving treatments in communities in need, like monoclonal and antibody treatments. We have over 20 teams deployed now. Today I'm announcing that we're going to triple that, more than double it. We're going to get to 60 teams ready to deploy in states experiencing a surge in cases over the course of this winter. I was just with a governor in Minnesota who was raving about the positive impact it's had on his state. But there's other states in the same circumstance. Additionally, we're increasing the availability of new medications recommended by real doctors, not conspiracy theorists, okay? For example, monoclonal antibody treatments have been shown to reduce the risk of hospitalization by up to 70%, and for unvaccinated people at risk of developing severe disease. We've already distributed over 3 million courses of this treatment to save lives and reduce the strain on hospitals. And we have promising new antiviral pills on the horizon that could help prevent hospitalizations and death for people infected by COVID-19. We've secured enough supply of these pills already, and early indications are that these treatments will remain effective in the face of Omicron. We don't know that for sure yet, but that's the hope and expectation. And like with the distribution of the vaccines, we will ensure that these medicines will be available to the hardest hit communities in America as well. Fifth and finally, as we've seen with COVID-19 and the Delta variant, and now with Omicron variant, all that emerged elsewhere, it all came from somewhere else. And ultimately, to beat this pandemic, we need to go to where it came from in the rest of the world. We also need to vaccinate the rest of the world. America has, in my view, continues to lead in that effort. We've shipped for free more vaccines around the world than all other countries in the world combined. Every other country combined. Over 280 million vaccines so far to 110 countries, including South Africa, where we delivered all the doses they requested. Now, today I'm announcing that we'll accelerate the delivery of more vaccines to countries that need it, pledged to deliver 200 million more doses within the next 100 days, on our way to delivering more than 1,200 million doses for the rest of the world. Let me be clear. There's not a single vaccine dose America ever sends to the rest of the world will ever come at the expense of any American. I'll always make sure that our people are protected first, but vaccinating the world is not just a moral tool, a moral obligation that we have, in my view. It's how we protect Americans, as we're seeing with this new variant. America's doing our part, and we'll do more. But this is a global pandemic, and everyone needs to fight it together. And that includes countries we're helping that aren't particularly friendly toward us. Their populations are in trouble. To their credit, the scientific community, particularly in South Africa, quickly notified the world of the emergence of this new variant. This kind of transparency is to be encouraged and applauded because it increases our ability to respond quickly to any new threats. And that's what we did. On the very day the World Health Organization identified the new variant, I took an immediate step to restrict travel from the countries in Southern Africa. But while we know that travel restrictions can slow the spread of Omicron, they cannot prevent it. But it does give us a little more time to take more precautions at home to prepare. A month ago, we announced requirements that foreign travelers must be vaccinated if entering the United States. This week, I announced an additional action to strengthen international travel rules, to give us more time to stop the spread and study a new variant. It used to be that international traveler flying to the United States had to test negatively 3 days before their departure from that country. Well, I'm announcing today that all inbound international travelers must test within 1 day of departure, regardless of their vaccination status or nationality. This tighter testing timetable provides an added degree of protection as scientists continue to study the Omicron variant. And we are extending the requirement, both internationally and domestically, to wear masks for travel on aircraft, trains, public transportation through the winter months. I'll close with this. Again, the actions I'm announcing are ones that all Americans can rally behind and should unite us in the fight against COVID-19. And they come from a position of strength. We are better positioned than we were a year ago to fight COVID-19. Since day one of my administration, we've been doing everything we can to beat this virus. And that's what we have to keep doing. That's how we keep our country and our businesses and our schools open. And that's how, even with the pandemic, we've generated record job creation. 5.6 million new jobs since January 20th, more than any president in American history. We're on the track to the fastest economic growth in 4 decades. In 4 decades. We move forward in the face of COVID-19 and the Delta variant. And we'll move forward in the face of Omicron variant as well. And we'll do it by keeping the faith and doing it together as the United States of America. Let me close again by saying God bless our doctors, our scientists, and all of you here at NIH for what you're doing for the country and quite frankly for the world.
부산국밥이에요.
You're the best.
You're the best. 과학자들이 베스트야. 니네들 최고야 임마.
Thank you for
God
your
bless
patience
you.
and
신들이
listening to me.
축복하게.
Thank you.
땡큐 베리 감사. 끝났다. 자, 일단 여러분들 여기 마지막으로 정리를 한 번 더 해드릴게요. 일단 제가 빨리 점심을 먹어야 되기 때문에 제가 최대한 빨리 끝내보고 점심을 먹으러 가도록 하겠습니다. JCB라는 친구가 지금 제 옆에서 점심 먹으려고 기다리고 있거든요. 지금 부산국밥이 여기 차갑게 식하고 있어요. 식기 전에 빨리 먹어야 되니까 빠르게 정리하고 저는 오늘 일찍 마치고 이 부분에 대해서 제가 커뮤니티에 정리해서 올려드리도록 할게요. 자, 일단 대충 5가지 정책이라고 하는데 디테일하게 보면은 한 8, 9가지 되더라고요. 그래서 하나씩 정리를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 자, 여러분들 지금 목이 아파서 지금 감기 걸려서 국밥 먹고 싶더라고요. 그래서 국밥 먹기로 했는데, 자, 일단 1번 백신 부스터 캠페인을 더 늘리겠다. 모든 어른들 백신 부스터 좀 맞아라. 18살 넘어서면 백신 좀 맞아라. 3번째 좀 맞아라. 부스터샷 공짜다. 현재 18,000곳에서 공짜고 4388829에 너의 집 코드, 한마디로 이걸 우편번호를 보내면은 어디서 공짜인지 바로바로 알려준다. 부스터샷 언제 맞았는지에 따라서 우리가 지금 텍스트랑 이메일을 현재 보내고 있고, 우리는 현재 3,800만 명한테 이미 텍스트 메시지를 보고 맞으라고 이야기를 했다. 계속 백신 맞으라고 이야기를 했고, 오미크론을 대비하는 가장 좋은 방법은 백신 부스터샷. 화이자, 모더나, 백신과 부스터샷이고, 화이자, 모더나, 얀센에게 이미 오미크론 부스터샷에 대해서 이야기 중이고, FDA, CDC와 이미 빠른 처리에 대해서 accelerated processing이라고 해서 원래는 보통 몇 년 걸리는 프로세스를 바로 몇 개월로 줄일 수 있는 그런 빠른 처리가 이미 이야기가 되어 있다고 이야기가 되어 있고요. 두 번째, 어린아이 백신 프로그램에 대해서 확장시키고 있다. 백신 좀 맞춰라. 애들 백신 좀 맞춰라. 그 프로그램의 일환으로 몇백 개의 가족 백신 클리닉을 열겠다. 한마디로 원래는 따로따로 예약해야 됐거든요. 원래 어린아이 백신 맞겠습니다. 예약해놓고 저 어른 내일 백신 맞겠습니다. 이렇게 따로따로 예약을 했었는데, 이제는 그런 부분들을 다 없애고 가족 전체가 가서 한 번에 맞을 수 있는 백신 클리닉을 열도록 하겠다. 한마디로 이제 가족 저희 유산한 패밀리 지금 10,000명 갔는데 괜찮아요? 오케이 이렇게 해주는, 만약에 유산한 패밀리가 함께 간다고 하면 다 같이 한 번에 맞을 수 있게 해주는 그런 클리닉을 열도록 해서, 그래서 좀 더 쉽게 여러 커뮤니티에서 걱정 없이 아이들을 놓고 가는 그런 걱정 없이 빠르게 맞을 수 있는, 다 같이 한 번에 맞을 수 있는 원샷 투고라는 이런 식으로 한꺼번에 맞을 수 있는 곳을 열도록 하겠다. 그리고 마지막 하나 더. 자, 테스트 스테이. 원래는 여러분들 밀접 접촉자가 나오잖아요. 여러분들 학교에서 만약에 수업 도중에 제 코로나 걸렸어요 하면 우리 다 자가격리해야 돼. 전체 다 14일 자가격리였잖아요. 그런 부분들에 대해서 테스트 스테이, 내가 계속해서 테스트를 통해서 자가격리를 면제를 받을 수 있는 그런 프로그램들을 만들도록 하겠다. 자, 이런 부분들에 대해서 아직 정확하게 디테일하게 이야기해 주진 않았어요. 제가 디테일하게 알아봐서 나중에 좀 더 여러분들에게 업데이트를 해드리도록 할 텐데, 한마디로 예전처럼 밀접 접촉자라도 꼭 14일 자가격리가 아니라, 학교 전체를 닫는 게 아니라, 그 반 전체를 닫는 게 아니라 어떤 방식으로 테스트를 통해서 자가격리 면제를 받을 수 있는 시스템을 만들도록 하겠다. 자, 그리고 그 다음 이게 좀 중요한 것 같은데, 자가검사 키트를 훨씬 편하고 쉽고 공짜로 받을 수 있도록 하겠다. 현재 지금 자가검사 키트가 한 8종류가 있어요. 지금 다들 이게 90% 이상의 적중률을 자랑을 하는데, 만약에 여러분들이 보험사를 쓰고 있다면 보험사들은 무조건 이 홈테스트 키트를 무조건 얘네들이 돈을 대신 내줘야 돼. 웃긴 건 내가 몇 주 전에 200브러치를 샀는데 이게 커버가 되는지 솔직히 모르겠어. 돈 날렸네. 20만원, 30만원 날렸네. 짜증나. 무튼, 모든 보험은 이 홈테스트, 집에서 자가검사 키트를 커버하도록 정책을 바꾸었다. 보험이 없더라도 공짜 테스트 키트를 가져갈 수 있는 곳, 한마디로 보건소 같은 곳이나 아니면 커뮤니티 센터에서 여러분들이 가서 픽업할 수 있는 곳을 만들겠다고 이야기를 했고요. 그리고 그 다음, 우리는 경험이 있는 코로나 응급팀을, 원래는 코로나 응급팀이 20개 정도밖에 없었어요. 굉장히 적어요. 계속 돌아가면서 여러 사람을 봐주기도 하고 주에 하나씩 파견해서 봐야 되는데, 이 20개라는 팀이 굉장히 적은 숫자인데 그래도 이거를 60개로 늘리면서 혹시 정말 위험한 사람들을 위해서 그 사람들이 모노클론 테스트라든지 아니면 지금 테스트 이 코로나 바이러스에 대해서 효과가 있다고 떠도는 게 몇 가지가 있어요. 제가 전에 한번 이걸 영상으로 만들었었는데 가장 지금 그나마 가장 과학적으로 신빙성이 있고 가장 확인이 많이 된 건 모노클론 모시기 테스트라고 있는데 그 모노 테스트라고 할게요. 모노 테스트가 가장 지금 과학적으로 지금 이게 증명이 돼 있는 부분이고 그냥 이거를 통해서 대응할 수 있는 팀 60개를 만들었다라고 보시면 될 것 같아요. 그러니까 이것에 관해서 지금 우리가 너희들한테 보내주는 이 응급팀을 믿어라. 루머를 믿지 말고 뭐 이상한 거 먹지 말고 이상한 거 쓰지 말고 이 모노클론 모시기 테스트를 써라. 그리고 좀 있으면 머크 약이랑 화이자 약도 나오니까 이상한 거 믿지 마라. 뭐 요구르트가 코로나를 막아줬다 이런 이야기 믿지 말고 그냥 우리가 주는 이 모노클론 테스트와 머크 약이랑 화이자 약을 통해서 실질적으로 중증으로 가는 거를 막아라 라고 이야기를 하고 이 부분에 대해서 이미 공급을 확보했다라고 이야기를 했다고 하네요. 자, 그리고 델타나 오미크론이 사실상 미국이 아니라 미국 바깥에서 온 거잖아요. 그래서 지금 현재까지 미국이 다른 나라들한테 백신 2억 회분을 공짜로 제공했는데 그 부분에 대해서 더 추가로 2억 회를 더 공짜로 제공을 하겠다라고 칼을 빼들었어. 지금 우리 미국뿐만이 아니라 미국 국민을 지키려면 전 세계가 함께 해야 된다. 다른 나라들 미국의 적국 뭐 중국이나 러시아 얘기하는 거겠지. 적국이라기보다는 친하지 않은 나라들 니네들도 같이 해라. 니네들도 같이 백신 좀 뿌려라. 지금 이건 미국뿐만이 아니라 전 세계 같이 해야 된다라고 이야기를 하면서 우리는 일단 2억 회분을 뿌리겠다라고 이야기를 했어요. 자, 그리고 마지막으로 International Travel 국제 규제, 국제 여행 규제에 대해서 이야기를 했는데 모든 국제 여행에 관해서 모든 사람들이 국제 여행을 할 때 출발할 때 미국에 들어올 때 만약에 여러분들이 한국에서 미국으로 들어오면은 한국에서 미리 검사를 받고 출발 당일날 그것도 출발 당일날 그 전날이나 당일날 검사를 받고 거기에 대한 결과를 갖고 오셔야 됩니다. 그 전날 받아야 돼요. within one day of travel이야. 자, 그렇기 때문에 이거에 대해서 조금 미리 아셔야 될 분들은 아셔야 될 것 같습니다. 좀 국제 여행을 하시는 분들은 충분히 이거에 대해서 숙지를 하셔야 될 것 같아요. 무튼 출발할 때 다들 검사 받는 것을 의무화를 하겠다. 그리고 모든 버스, 기차, 비행기 탑승자들은 다들 마스크를 써야 된다고 이야기를 했습니다. 자, 여기까지가 지금 나온 부분들이고요. 커뮤니티에 정리해서 제가 올려드리도록 할게요. 자, 불가리스 오미크론의 효과 없어요. 없는 건 뭐 모르지만 아직 증명된 게 아니니까. 자, 아무튼 이렇게 여러분들 중요한 부분들 다들 정리를 해드렸고요. 이제 저는 진짜 국밥 먹으러 가야 될 것 같아요. 제가 배고파서. 국밥 좀 먹으러 가고요. 제가 좀 이따가 나중에 정리해서 커뮤니티에 올려드리도록 할 테니까 미스하신 분들은 제 방송을 보셔도 되고 아니면은 제가 바로 커뮤니티에 올려드릴 테니까 커뮤니티에 정리한 거 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 여러분들 여기까지 정리를 하고 마무리를 하도록 할게요. 제 국밥이 식어가고 있어요, 여러분. 다들 수고하셨고요. 여러분 유명해지고 싶은 남자, 유능해지고 싶은 남자, 유재석이 되고 싶은 남자, 유재지에 산 남자, 육한님으로 사랑하는 남자 유사남이었고요. 구독과 좋아요, 알림 설정 꼭 눌러주시면 감사하다는 말씀 드리면서 여기서 마무리를 하도록 하겠습니다. 일단 국밥 먹으러 가야 돼서 오늘은 급하게 끄도록 할게요. 여러분들 다들 감사하고 사랑합니다. SES 못 떠났어? SES 못 떴어? 좀 이따가 볼게. 지금 너무 바빠서 밥을 먹어야 돼요. 여러분들 다들 너무 수고하셨고요. 알렉스님 제보 감사하고 좀 이따가 제가 찾아보고 또 이러다가 라이브 방송 켜야 되면 또 켜서 여러분들 같이 이야기해보도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.